I just want one thing in my life for Fallout never to be made or touched by Bethesda ever again.
What is going on with Fallout right now? Following the release of the Fallout TV show, things genuinely changed for this IP. We saw a massive boost to player counts across the board.
Oh my, look at this. This is very impressive, but then you remember that they made an 80% discount, and Fallout 76 got an 85% discount. Where is Fallout 76? Fallout 76. I'm assuming it's this one. Pretty impressive, uh, but it already has not lasted. This is until April 27th, and guess what? Now is not exactly April.
But far more importantly, these player records and the overwhelming success of the Fallout TV show are turning some heads at both Microsoft and Bethesda. In the months following the release of the Fallout TV show and all of these games basically exploding and setting new records on their player counts, I heard from multiple parties about how the performance of the TV show and subsequent boost to the games exceeded expectations. Todd Howard even alluded to this in a recent interview, but it genuinely
By the way, this 65 million in 16 days is a lie, obviously. They are counting literally every single view for every single episode. So, best case scenario, divide 65 with how many episodes there were. And how many were there? 8? 10? I can't even remember. That's how bad it is. But yeah, a way less actually impressive than 65 million. Still kind of unexpectedly a success, but sad.
Todd Howard even alluded to this in a recent interview, but it genuinely seems like both Microsoft and Bethesda weren't expecting things to get this crazy when it came to Fallout, and that's actually a pretty big deal.
No one did?
This explains why there wasn't a new Fallout game or really all that much to launch alongside the TV show. They didn't expect this degree of interest or monetizability. But now they do recognize it. They recognize that many of these games just got a bunch of new players, and those players aren't going anywhere anytime soon, as it genuinely seems like both Microsoft and
A lot of these players already left. What are you talking about?
Bethesda are going to be putting more money behind Fallout going forward. A little over a month ago now, I was flown out to London by Bethesda to check out the recent Fallout 76 DLC a bit early. So I've been making Fallout videos for a while now, and this was honestly a big deal. It's the first Fallout event I've attended since the 2018 launch of Fallout 76. And the impression I got was more Fallout events, or perhaps even yearly Fallout events, just like what happens with ESO.
You know what's funny about this? This is footage from the press release thing that they got to play. And the reality of this is way worse than you think. Because of the server capacity limitations, these events are not even close to what you saw previously. In real life, these events are, okay, here's a group of 3 enemies spawning at an interval of like 3 minutes. Have fun doing nothing.
Could follow. I would not be surprised if Bethesda starts returning to PAX East to promote the new Fallout 76 DLCs every year, as it really does feel like the budget for events like that are now back on the table after the boost from the Fallout TV show. And this really is a big deal.
That's a completely random assumption based on nothing, but okay.
This is Microsoft and Bethesda putting more money into Fallout where they previously weren't. Something changed that made these events make sense to them financially now. As well as right as the Fallout TV show and Fallout games started to break records, we also heard from Jez Corden how Xbox wants the next Fallout game out even sooner. Now that Xbox is acutely aware
Yeah, at least that is logical because the TV show was a massive success for them.
that this game is pretty much guaranteed to be a hit, they're really pushing to get this out as soon as possible. And part of that hypothetical is a developer that isn't named Bethesda Game Studios working on this new Fallout game. So, over the last few months, we've seen a shift internally at both Bethesda and Xbox. The value of Fallout
Fallout? I'm excited. Bethesda Fallout? I'm not excited. No, thank you. It's gonna be a slop fiesta.
is increasing, to the point where now Fallout may very well be one of the most valuable IPs at Microsoft overall, only potentially behind titles like Call of Duty or Minecraft. And this means they're starting to
Yeah, let's ignore World of Warcraft. Let's ignore a lot of things. Man, he's choosing to ignore a lot of things that are bigger than Fallout.
put more money into Fallout as a result, which becomes incredibly interesting as we are now seeing developers like Larian, Obsidian, and even some others mention that they are interested in working on a Fallout game. It's not like this is just a pipe dream anymore. Many of these developers' schedules are finally starting to open up. But summer is finally here, so I'm gonna help you spend some more time outside. Yeah, no. will apply. So yeah,
No.
honestly, this Larian wanting to work on Fallout thing completely came out of left field for me. In a recent interview, the CEO of Larian described interest in working on a Fallout game. I think a lot of people are seeing these headlines and just stopping there, oh cool, Larian wants to work on Fallout. But in context,
It is very cool. Putting Larian's name on anything at this moment is pretty much the same as printing money.
things are definitely quite a bit different. As in a recent interview for Games Radar, and specifically for their Edge magazine, the CEO of Larian talks about the games he was interested in working on prior to Baldur's Gate 3. It would have been Ultima, it would have been Fallout, it would have been Baldur's Gate. There was not a lot to choose from. So basically, these are the franchises he and Larian overall were considering. And of course, they landed on Baldur's Gate 3, and we ended up with this masterpiece. So while you probably have seen a bunch of posts claiming that Larian said they want to work on Fallout, that's not exactly what was said here. Larian wanted to work on Fallout, but they ended up working on Baldur's Gate 3 instead. And nothing about this recent interview or article suggests that they're still interested in working on Fallout, although it definitely doesn't mean that.
Again, I talked about this yesterday, but I think it's happening. Microsoft is gonna throw out Todd Howard through the goddamn window at this rate to just get Larian in. It would be amazing. Todd Howard obviously is an absolute loser, who will never want to work with Larian or give Fallout to Larian, because then everyone will understand, oh my god, Todd Howard has been ruining Fallout forever, after they make an actual good game with role-play elements and whatnot. Yeah, if I was Todd Howard, I would do everything in my power to stop Microsoft from wanting to work with Larian, because, hey, I kind of want to preserve my legacy, and in Todd Howard's case, nothing would be probably more devastating than it's just a blatant confirmation that he has completely butchered Bethesda.
Can't happen. Larian's in a really interesting place right now. Baldur's Gate 3 was a massive hit, many considering it one of the greatest video games of this generation or even of all time. But Larian has made it clear that they're moving on from Baldur's Gate 3 and really Baldur's Gate overall. They're not working on another Baldur's Gate game, and they're not even working on an expansion for Baldur's Gate 3. They have two projects currently underway, and one of them is described as their best work ever. Many are speculating at least one of these is Divinity Original Sin 3, but a new Fallout game certainly could be in the cards as many fans are hoping it is. And from some perspective, sure, this makes sense. Larian seems like one of the few developers out there that could get a large-scale interest in a new top-down Fallout game, returning to the roots of Fallout RPGs after all.
Why? Why? All we want is just Fallout with the same amount of choices that Larian has given to their games. That's all we want. We don't care if the shooting is as bad as it currently is in Fallout, honestly. If people don't play Fallout for the amazing game experience, well, I guess technically it's part of game experience, but they don't play it for the shooting, they don't play it for any of that stuff. They play it for the world, the lore, and the choices. And that's what Larian could provide. And that's all I care about.
All these years, but let's also not forget that Microsoft and Bethesda literally stole the Baldur's Gate 3 release date for Starfield. Last summer, Larian at the last minute had to move up the Baldur's Gate 3 release date because they didn't want to compete with Starfield. And even after that, they delayed the Xbox Series S release for several months, and that became a huge talking point as well. And in several interviews, Larian has credited their independent status as a major asset in what went right for Baldur's Gate 3 development. So they likely don't want the baggage that comes with Fallout, and maybe don't even want to work with Microsoft at all at this point. I certainly would understand that, but around
there is a possibility that is true, and that would be the make or break here. But that Larian at this point, I mean, they're the goddamn kings at this point. Everyone wants to work with them. I'm pretty sure Microsoft would accept Larian working on a Fallout without having amazingly huge oversight over everything that's happening here. So I think it's still a strong possibility.
On the other corner, Obsidian has been very vocal about wanting to work on Fallout, and they're literally owned by Microsoft. Many fans are hoping that this match could be made, but even things on this front are starting to seem like a pipe dream. Between the recent news that Microsoft wants a Fallout game out sooner and Obsidian releasing Avowed later this year, it really seemed like this could work quite well. Avowed would be wrapping up production right around the same time that Microsoft is looking for a new team to work on Fallout. And we've heard how this has been discussed a couple of times over the years. The studio head at Obsidian mentioned wanting to work on another Fallout game before they retire, and even insider Jeff
Yeah, we know this.
Grubb mentioned a few years ago how conversations were starting at Microsoft about Obsidian and Fallout and even Fallout New Vegas too. But that was all thrown out earlier this year, and
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be thrown out because Todd is still more influential in Microsoft's decision-making than Obsidian. And again, Todd Howard is a loser cuck. He wants desperately to save his reputation as the guy who made Fallout, blah, 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 all of this crap. I have said this once, I have said this twice, and I will say it again. Todd Howard's biggest regret in his life, most likely, is the fact that he allowed Obsidian to make New Vegas, because New Vegas is the most critically well-acclaimed and best Fallout game to this point. Yeah, sure, it's a billion years old, and that is a problem at this point, because people don't want to play a game that's 20 years old, or however many years old it is at this point. Well, it's not 20, but you know, you get the point. It's a lot. And it's still the best Fallout that we have to this point, roleplay-wise and, you know, story-wise and everything. And Todd Howard didn't make that. He hates it. He wants Fallout New Vegas gone from the map forever. So of course he's not going to let Obsidian make Fallout New Vegas 2, just out of fear that it's going to yet again tarnish his legacy and reputation.
we hear from another insider, Lex Luddy, on a podcast with Jeff Grubb about how that probably isn't happening.
The discussion you brought up years ago now almost, Obsidian were approached about Fallout New Vegas 2, that did happen. I also know that it wasn't just Bethesda being like, hey, we don't want someone else making this game. It was also partly Obsidian going, hey, that would be a huge scale for us that we have backed away from. So I think there were a lot of people that were very BGS focused of BGS don't want someone else making
right. It was never game. Only that. Yeah.
Yeah, but also there is a part of other companies don't super want to.
I mean, that's a huge part of it.
Make Fallout games within Microsoft because they have free reign to make their own projects. And why would you work with a partner that we know BGS is quite controlling of Fallout because they're telling the TV showrunners what they can and can't do in their show to a certain extent with the plot.
I think that's a lie. I think this is an overstated lie. I think Microsoft just wanted Todd's name on the Fallout TV show, because we know that Todd didn't want to make a Fallout TV show. But the moment Microsoft bought them, Microsoft was like, okay, Todd, we're making the show. You get to put your name on it, and that's it, you little bitch. Yeah, we can assume this is 100% pretty much almost guaranteed truth, by the way, because Microsoft made the Halo series, they're doing all of this stuff, and then there's Fallout, and everyone wants a Fallout series, and it's especially the time for, you know, a game franchise series to come out. Of course they're gonna do it, and Todd can't say anything against that. A lot of people still don't understand. Todd Howard is not calling shots. Todd Howard has absolutely no control over what Bethesda does or doesn't do. He has absolutely no control over what kind of projects are or aren't made in Bethesda anymore. Microsoft says yes or no to anything. And Todd Howard literally does not have any ability to object. Microsoft says Fallout TV show happening. Todd Howard can cry all he wants. But if he wants to keep his paycheck, he's gonna have to go out on public and say, yeah, Fallout TV show, yeah. Remember how all these years I said I don't want to make it? Well, now that we're owned by Microsoft, I suddenly do. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's kind of it. The sad part is that Microsoft, I think, is keeping Todd Howard around because he is synonymous with a lot of things. He's synonymous with Fallout at this point. He's synonymous with Bethesda at this point. He's the figurehead. He's very well known, and he's synonymous with the Elder Scrolls. Todd Howard leaving is actually something Microsoft actively wants to prevent because he is Bethesda. Sad as that is.
Microsoft are looking for people to make another Fallout game. They want another Fallout game. They are annoyed that there was not a Fallout game ready to go. There is currently no Fallout in development.
No way.
Yeah, I can say that more or less as a fact. It is very unlikely that Obsidian are going to be the people to make the next Fallout.
And Obsidian being uncomfortable with the scale of this potential Fallout game actually does make a lot of sense and lines up with what they're doing with Avowed. We recently heard how Avowed began as Obsidian's take on Skyrim, but over time the game was significantly scaled back to be more in line with the scale of the Outer Worlds. That being a scale that Obsidian is just more comfortable with. And Lex goes on to mention how several studios at Microsoft are having this exact issue, where Microsoft is coming calling about Fallout work, but not many studios want that work, because now you have to forfeit some creative control over to Bethesda, and just generally, you don't get to work on your own thing. You're basically borrowing somebody.
Dude, imagine you're that bad of a company like Bethesda. The chance to work on a Fallout, one of the biggest things in gaming, because Fallout is one of the most recognizable things in gaming. It's a household name, it has power, obviously. And it's pretty big. Maybe it's not even top 5 in gaming. It's maybe not even, honestly, top 10 at this point. Or top 20, if we're being completely honest. But it is still extremely well known, extremely recognized. And no one wants to work because they know that they have to deal with Todd Howard's shit. Imagine how absolutely sad that is.
Else's IP for a limited time. And as we hear from that recent podcast, at least as of a couple of months ago, nobody at Microsoft was working on Fallout right now. That of course outside of 011 and Bethesda Game Studios Austin. So from the outside looking in, it very much so seems like Fallout has a problem right now. Microsoft actively wants a Fallout game out sooner, but it certainly sounds like they're having a hard time finding a good developer to work on it outside of Bethesda Game Studios. And of course, when it comes to Bethesda, they're quite preoccupied with the Elder Scrolls 6 and even Starfield. Although at the same time, there definitely has been some internal...
Oh yeah, Starfield. A year later, we get, what, mini-maps in Starfield? What a time to be alive. Well, not even mini-maps, just maps in Starfield. What a time to be alive. Wow. Oh, so much progress has been made. Kill me now.
Expansion at Bethesda around Fallout 76. 2024 will be one of the most content-rich years for Fallout 76 ever. It's already received 2 large-scale updates, and even that would make it one of the busier years for this game. But just recently, testing began on the next update coming later in 2024. Right now, Fallout 76 is being worked on by both Bethesda Game Studios Austin and 011. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see content ramp up even further, as now the Fallout TV show Boost almost looks to have permanently increased the Fallout 76 player count. It definitely seems like for a lot.
Wait, isn't that a blatant lie? Fallout 76 shots. Let's see. Okay, so we got March 2024, 6K average players. April 2024, 26K. Then it's May 30, then it's June 18 rounded down 18.3. And now in the last 3 days, it's 16K rounded up. That's not permanent. Admittedly, that's not the highest drop I have ever seen in my life, but yeah, that is not permanent, my dude. That is pretty bad. There's already a 50% drop off from the highest peak of the 85% discount. Yeah, that's not true, Juice, at all. You're just blatantly lying here.
A lot of people, Fallout 76 just had its coming out party after the Fallout TV show. Lots of fans giving this game an honest try for the first time since launch, and based off these recent...
Also, by the way, it's the fact that it's the TV show and the first expansion it has ever gotten.
Player numbers, I can't imagine we're going to be dropping all the way back down to where we were earlier this year before...
I can. Well, why is it hard to imagine? It's super easy to imagine, in fact.
Or the TV show. There's also that Fallout 3 remaster to pop up on this roadmap from last year. The roadmap leaked last year, but was actually made in 2020. Honestly, I would venture a guess that this is being done by an
Bro, listen, we saw the graph at the start. Fallout 3 literally played by no one. New Vegas absolutely destroying it, but we're getting a Fallout 3 remake? Are you kidding me?
external studio, just like that Oblivion remaster, so it's likely just contract work and not really being done by internals at Microsoft itself. Although if you are curious about a Fallout 3 remake, get subscribed because I do have a video on that coming shortly. And in the past, Todd Howard made it clear that while Fallout 5 is on the horizon, it may not actually be the next game Bethesda works on after The Elder Scrolls 6. That quote is from before the recent TV show boost as well, so I definitely think Microsoft will be pressuring things a bit more heavily in that department, or at least until a secondary Fallout dev is located. I just can't imagine Microsoft will be super happy about Bethesda wrapping up The Elder Scrolls 6 and then not immediately working on Fallout 5. And some recent leaks make it seem like work on The Elder Scrolls 6 is seriously ramping up right now. This leak is honestly a bit of a silly one, but at the same time very legit looking in its own odd way. As one Redditor found, a Bethesda Game Studios employee's Pinterest page. Initially, this was mostly space images, but over time this transitioned into desert theme until more recently this has completely taken over. So right at the bat, we could see this transition from working on Starfield to actively working on The Elder Scrolls 6, but far more telling is the theme of all of this. It definitely seems like this is going to be a game set in Hammerfell. This aesthetic can't really be mistaken for many other locations in Elder Scrolls lore, and after this Reddit post was made and some attention was brought to all of this, that Pinterest—
Well, at least that's not a cringe way to implant 500 billion years of diversity into the game. Gotta give them that. That's better than I expected.
First account was privated, which just makes this entire thing seem far more plausible and basically confirms Hammerfell, at least for me. This also really makes me think that the next Elder Scrolls game could be coming in 2026. We had one lawyer mention that during the FTC trial, although technically they said the Elder Scrolls 16, but this just makes sense. It would be the right time for the next-gen console, so this could end up being a launch title, but the Elder Scrolls 6 coming out in 2026 would also mean that Fallout 5 may begin development a lot sooner than many of us were thinking. Although that isn't the only big news coming out around Fallout right now. We also just heard how Fallout London, the new game-sized experience that will take us to post-apocalyptic London, is almost ready for release.
Who is gonna bet that when Fallout London releases, Bethesda is just gonna slam in a huge another update, bug fix, or whatever, so it doesn't work?
Fallout London found itself in a bit of an odd spot. The mod was delayed due to the next-gen update, but then they and everyone else discovered that, oh no, the next-gen update just broke Fallout 4. Use certain mods that edit NPCs and your game will begin to stutter. This is an extreme example—
Oh, not the stutter thing again. I don't know if the Fallout London is gonna happen. Bethesda already has, turns out, a history of actually making giant updates exactly when big mods are releasing for the games. Interesting how that always is consistently coinciding. Makes you think.
A lot of problems. Although we've also been getting some updates around the Fallout TV show as things are really starting to pick up around Season 2. Fallout was just recently nominated for 17 Emmys, and a variety of interviews came out around this news. As a part of this, Amazon clarified that Fallout Season 2 will not be an anthology. The same cast and story will be continued into Season 2, which, yeah, I think most of us realize that just based off—
I really wonder what they're gonna do with the goal. Again, talked about this. But I'll talk it a little bit more. What are they going to do with the goal? Is he just now going to be pushed aside to the witty remark character? You know, something like that sometimes does brutal things when Lucy says, "Stop doing that." Will that be it? Because the goal's character arc has kind of completed. His transformation is there. All he needs to do now is find his family, and there you kind of go.
What happened and how Season 1 ended, but at the same time, based off the sheer number of articles, I guess some users didn't get that. But far more relevant is the continuing news that Fallout Season 2 is coming out sooner than most of you probably think. We've heard from several interviews now how they are full steam ahead on Season 2, likely because of how big of a hit Season 1 was. And there are large factors enabling this. Season 2 is moving filming to California.
That's good, I want to see that.
Which is literally—
we have literally heard this. Juice, you're repeating yourself. Anyway, that was Juice Hit, 10 out of 10. Bye.